we get so wrapped up in technology that we're not really living, you know?
Welcome back to another episode of Nothing Outside. We're back. We got a special guest today. I'm actually filming this intro like a day later because we forgot to film the intro because we were shooting 2 episodes. So that's why I'm wearing a different shirt. She is the girl who gets it done, and she's the host of We Are LA Tech and Women in Tech show, which got in the Harper's Bazaar Top 10 podcast. And she was one of the Clubhouse app faces, if you know that app. Here's our episode with Espree Devora. So, Espree, the girl who gets it done.
Yes.
What does that mean, Espree?
I want to see all the hosts, though.
I know it
everybody.
Sucks. It sucks. They sit across from me.
Michael doesn't want our faces on the screen. He's scared that you'll like run
off or
something. Yeah, it's like a little awkward because you can't see them.
Face team.
You can't see them. But they're there. They're there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I trust.
So what is girl who gets it done? Where does that come from? Like who
just
are you?
What it means is just being really resourceful. It came from I had so a long time ago I was with my friend who is a well-known CEO in the tech world. And we were at South by Southwest, and we were with Ashton Kutcher and with one other person who was also really big in the tech world. And they were all trying to hang out somewhere, and it was everybody's entourage, and they didn't know where to go or how to get there. And so his assistant looked at me, and I was like, "You want me to help?" And I was able to coordinate 20 people, like, being situated in like the perfect environment in the perfect amount of time. And so people were asking, like, who was I? Was I someone's girlfriend? Was I a PR person? And then somebody's like, she's just the girl who gets it done. So that's kind of where that came from.
That's cool. Ashton Kutcher, huh? Yeah. He's in my favorite movie. I've watched that movie 16 times.
What movie?
He played Steve Jobs. Oh. That's crazy.
He's a really nice person.
So you met him, like actually met him?
Yes.
Flex. So you're big in the podcast scene. Tell me about your podcast. You have 2, right?
Yeah. Well, I have more than 2, but I have 2 that are the most active. And so it's We Are LA Tech, which is Los Angeles tech startups, and Women in Tech, which is women in tech around the world. And so I've been to over 100 countries interviewing women in tech.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's been wild. It's a wild ride. Podcasting my podcast led to me keynoting with Richard Branson coming up in a few months, which is insane.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I just saw the draft of the video last night and I was with my mom, and literally it's like Richard Branson and then me. I'm like, how is this actually my life? Like, that's so wild.
And when did you get into this scene? When did you first step foot into it?
When I was born.
Wow.
My dad was an early adopter, and he had like a home office and a computer. So I started being really into technology because of my dad when I was a little girl.
So then all of this is well-deserved because you've been going at it for your whole life.
I really have been going at it. Sometimes I question, like, we get so wrapped up in technology that we're not really living, so.
Wow. What do you mean by that? How do you think we're not living because we're wrapped in technology?
Like a key thing, there's no space for us to be bored anymore, where boredom is extremely important. And so I just think that we default to technology too much. And we forget, speaking of being outside, we forget to go outside and live and experience. And we're always looking down at our phones and automating, like eating on demand and all that. It's just like too much,
That's actually true. Boredom is important because before, when you were bored, you couldn't just scroll through TikTok and waste 2 hours very easily.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's a really interesting perspective. So, like, as a podcaster, how do you balance like that issue with technology you were talking about and getting outside with being a content creator yourself?
Yeah. So, I mean, I power off my phone a lot, which I love. It's hard. I'm definitely having a hard time with it. Like the last couple weeks, it ebbs and flows. I think as long as we prioritize self-care, and which incorporates things like meditation, sleep, and really make that the most important, especially if we're naturally driven people, then the driven part will just come anyway, because we're going to create, we're going to take action on a lot of things. But the self-care part, like the sleep, the meditation, the making time to wash your face or go for a walk, that's the kind of stuff that usually gets sacrificed.
So are you good with your have you been good lately with your like self-care and all that?
I'm trying. It's ebb and flows. You know what I mean? Like some weeks it's like on point, and then other weeks it's super far away.
Are you always working? Like, are you always working on your projects, or do you ever give yourself
I'm
downtime?
always working. It's
always
crazy.
Working?
Like always. I actually have to make myself not work, in the sense, like, even if I'm relaxing, I'll watch like a business thing to be learning, and I'm like, no, watch something like that has nothing to do with business, you know? Like my favorite podcast is To Live or Die in LA, which is an amazing podcast, and that has nothing to do with work. I mean, technically I suppose it has something to do with work, in the sense that I get to experience what a beautifully produced podcast is like, but that's not why I'm listening. I'm listening to it as a consumer, just like, it's just an amazing listening experience. And so I need to do more of that, more tapping into like a book that is just about La La Land or whatever, you know, like nothing to do with business.
I've been falling into that trap lately of like on my free time doing everything that has to do with where I'm trying to go. Do you think that's bad? Do you see that as a bad thing if you're just constantly absorbing knowledge that'll further progress you in your journey?
Yeah, so I don't think anything is bad or good. What I think is tapping into the inside of our body and how we feel. And I know that sounds like super new agey, but like, do you feel stressed out? Do you feel tired? Do you feel worried? Do you feel happy? Do you feel joy? Do you feel light? Do you feel heavy? Like if you feel inspired and playful in what you're doing, awesome. But if you feel taxed and you're sitting at a computer because you feel like you just need to keep sitting at the computer because that's just what your life is, that's something to reevaluate, you know? So if like you're on TikTok, but you're inside your body, you're not feeling more vibrant and alive, then it's time to get off TikTok.
Yeah, I feel that.
So as someone who's always creating and so driven naturally, do you ever experience like a creative block?
Yeah, all the time. But I learned about this thing recently. I forget what it's like the 4 personality types. I can't think of the woman's name, but essentially it's like either you need accountability or you need to meet deadlines. Each person has their own type, and I need like an accountability partner. So I find that as long as I set up those systems of having an accountability, then I can overcome the blockness. But you know, there's also too much accountability. Like at this particular moment, I have too much accountability, and so what's happening is I'm so overwhelmed that there's too many different things that I have to tend to that I end up not tending to any of them because my brain just feels like it's freaking out.
Yeah. I want to take like a step back just for a second, because you brought up a point that I thought was really interesting. You said you've been to over 100 countries, you know, interviewing and talking to people.
Yeah.
But as like a woman in the tech and STEM field, how do you feel like you've been able to kind of break through in something that I think a lot of us would say is almost dominated by men? How have you been able to like find your foot and use that to kind of influence other women to step into the field?
Sure. I've never seen myself as a woman in tech. I just see myself as in tech, and I just show up. I mean, I had a meeting this morning, and it was like all dudes. I just do what I want to do. I don't let myself be held back. The reason I have the Women in Tech podcast is because I just wanted to show people what's possible. I had built the first action sports social network. I had raised money. I had done all these things. And it was after that that I discovered that there were these like women in tech groups. And I'd go and all I'd hear was like a bunch of statistics on how women weren't able to do a lot of things. I'm like, that's wild. Like, I had no idea about these statistics. And if I had known about these, maybe I wouldn't have raised money, built the first action sports company, social network, like all these things. And so I think that we need to see examples of what's possible in order to achieve more. And so I created the Women in Tech podcast with the idea to show examples of all the possibilities, because I don't think there's enough conversations demonstrating what's possible. There's just more talk about how we're held back. And there's definitely like a place to have that conversation, but that shouldn't be the only conversation. Right. And the more you're exposed to what's possible, then you just go after it.
Changing the narrative. I like that. I like that a lot.
Nice.
And with everything, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the best countries that you've had an experience with? Because you said you went to over 100.
Oh my gosh.
That I know it's gonna be
traveling.
impossible to choose, but what's some that stands out to you in this moment?
You know, it's more the people. There's only 2 places that I didn't really jive with. I really had an incredible experience. I'd say my favorite place to travel was New Zealand. That was just iconic. I can't wait to go back. And I went to both islands. But it's really the people that make it extraordinary. You know what I mean? And so, like, when I was in Kazakhstan and I met this woman, Laura, and she, like, took me around and she gave me this incredible experience, maybe I wouldn't have liked Kazakhstan as much if it wasn't for Laura, you know, and all the other people I met in the different places that I've traveled. I'm so infatuated with my adventure. Like in Montenegro, like I met the shopkeeper who took me around. And, you know, it's all about who you meet more so than the place itself.
That's cool. Have you kept in touch with any of these people?
Probably, but like on Facebook or whatever. Like,
yeah,
I don't really,
loosely.
I'm an introvert. I don't really talk to a lot of people often. I probably talk to Michael. You're probably one of the top tier people I talk to regularly.
Actually,
so yeah, I'm sure I'm connected to everybody that I've known, but I keep to myself most of the time. So
you
I'm
use
not
the podcast
out talking to a lot of people all the time.
Is that a reason? One of the reasons why you started to like do your own podcast, to talk to people? Because you obviously have to talk to people to run the show, right?
Yeah. No, I started, if anything, I don't try to talk to even more people. No, the reason I started We Are LA Tech, and that was the one I started producing it in 2013, and it launched in 2014 and it was at the top of Apple within a month from launching, which was really exciting. And the reason I started that is because I built the first action sports social network. That became a media network. At the time, like, I had a really large YouTube channel, but I never considered myself a YouTuber. I just wanted a free place to put my video files, and they like these like videos with like Tony Hawk and people like that just like took off on the site, but I wasn't really
Tony
paying
Hawk?
attention. What?
You met Tony Hawk? Or are you talking about?
I've met a lot of people. Yeah.
Dang, Tony Hawk. That's crazy.
So, he's very nice as well. So when I wanted to give more exposure to the LA tech scene, like Los Angeles tech startups, I was like, I'm going to take my video background and apply it to Los Angeles. And so I shot 12 episodes of the We Are LA Tech video series. And unfortunately, the person who I'd partnered with at the time, who was supposed to edit it, didn't share my same work ethic and did not edit any of the episodes. And I was heartbroken. And around that time, I discovered podcasting. And I'm like, I could do it all myself. Because becoming a video editor, that's like crazy. That's like hard. You have to know music and color correction. And it's just hard. learning how to edit your own podcast, as long as you understand what you're listening for, it's a lot more attainable, right? If you don't have the skill of an editor, so to speak, especially like video editor just takes so many more levels. And so I taught myself how to edit podcasts, and so I started podcasting, so I never had to worry about video again. That's why I have an audio podcast, not video. It's still like, I mean, I have such a hard time figuring out even like what to wear. Like I just can't take this dress. I mean, even this, I'm like, where's a t-shirt so I could look halfway decent on your podcast.
You don't have to worry about how you look like on your podcast since it's just audio.
Yeah.
So with the rise of like podcasts, all these shows, all these YouTubers, Impulsive, like all that stuff, how do you feel being one of the OGs in the podcasting game? You started it before it became cool. You've been doing this for how many years?
Yeah,
like so long.
crazy.
What do you think? What do you think about?
Time.
You think there's too many podcasts? I think so, but
So no, I think that there's a couple million podcasts, and I think most of those are in a podcast graveyard. I think it's important to create a show that people mentally subscribe to. I think it's nowhere near YouTube, and that's what I saw. Like, I knew YouTube extremely well because I watched it, like iJustine and, creating like the what was it, the MLM Maker Studios and all these things back in the day, Phil DeFranco, and so I saw what its potential was, and so I wanted it to like essentially create the same kind of ecosystem for podcasting. So I created the LA Podcasters Meetup because I knew like collabs were really important, and I just kind of saw a vision that podcasting was going to become YouTube, like follow the same path as YouTube, and it did, and it is now, but it's nowhere near the number of YouTube channels, and I think it will be one day. So I think it's a really exciting time to get involved in podcasting. If there was any advice I would have given myself, it was to be more consistent in the beginning. My weekly podcast came out like once a month because, I didn't know how to monetize, and nobody was podcast. Like, it wasn't a thing, and so it was hard to try to do my life and that. And I'd say the biggest lesson I've learned throughout all of the different avenues I've been in and being a founder for so long has been consistency is the secret sauce to winning. Like, legit, just being consistent. I know you and I are both in Creator now, and it's been, I think this is week number 14 now that I've been consistent with my new YouTube channel. And I just think that like there, you just can't lose if you're consistent, like, and paying attention and improving things slowly instead of these like kind of like, let me try to win overnight things. I think that's the kind of stuff that like doesn't work. Back in the day, I knew the top executives at YouTube, and I could have easily had, like, I wanted to create these channels and I just didn't. Because I don't know, like, we get so lost in wanting things to happen so fast and doing everything so fast and what's going to be the thing that's the fastest and most excitable. And I just think there's a lot more reward in just being consistent over time.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like a lot of people, especially kids growing up, they see these quote unquote overnight success stories, but they don't realize that before that they were grinding for like 10, 15 years before that.
Totally.
So
I feel like what I've done wrong in my podcasting journey is like, I haven't taken a beat to slow down. Like, going slow and being consistent is a lot more abundant and profitable than going fast and being erratic. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I have all these episodes, and like now I've done over 700 episodes, and like it's probably close to 1,000 or more at this point, right? And has each one of those episodes been properly marketed? No. There's just so much I haven't slowed down to do. So I think it's really important to like slow down in order to go faster.
Yeah, that's true.
So for any listeners that may be interested in starting up a podcast of their own, like, how would you say would be a good way to go about beginning that process?
One, do it. Just do it. Just start. Ask yourself why you want to create it. I call it the triangle of purpose. What's the purpose for you? What's the purpose for the listener? And what's the purpose for the guest if you have guests? And the purpose for you, some people have like a save the world answer, but that's not true. Like, is it thought leadership? Are you trying to market a book? Are you trying to like get more of a reputation? Are you trying to connect with the people, like form more relationships? Are you trying to practice your speaking skills? Like, what's in it for you? Because then that will tell you what success looks like. And the biggest problem that happens in podcasting is pod fade, where people quit podcasting because they get discouraged, but they only get discouraged because they don't understand what they want out of it in the first place. They just see Joe Rogan and they're like, yeah, I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to be Joe Rogan. But first of all, Joe Rogan started his podcast once he was already successful, and he did it just because he wanted to chat with his friends. And, you know, he didn't know it would become what it is today. And so for him, I would imagine his why, his purpose was, I just want to enjoy a chat with my friends. And this is an interesting project to me to do that, you know? And so knowing if that is not why you're doing it, and he had no expectation on how large it would be. So for you, if you're starting because you want to have huge numbers, what does huge numbers mean to you? In what time frame? How are you going to assess that? What kind of marketing experiments are you going to implement month after month in order to get to those statistics that get to those success metrics that you're looking for? Like, just really being clear on your why, because and like not getting caught up in the best mic. Like, look, Michael's mic looks way better than mine, but whatever. Like,
it doesn't matter at the end of
mean?
the day. Yeah.
It's all about what you do with it.
Yeah, it's about, like, I just had a meeting with this girl, Alex, who's amazing, who runs my Women in Tech Facebook group. She was like, you have no idea the impact that you're creating in the world. She told me the story about, really heartbreaking actually, about this woman who's been a leader in the tech space at her company for about 10 years, and something happened that there was like an org reshifting and she got demoted in the process, even though like it had nothing to do with her, but because of how the whole company restructuring went. I know, it's something heartbreaking where you invest 10 years of your life and you're not even appreciated. It's crazy. And she's like, people in your group came to her to help her and support her, to help her like out of this situation. She's like, you created that. I'm like, that's wild, you know? So it's not about the mic, it's about the impact you make. And in podcasting, the biggest difference between podcasting and between YouTube and other platforms, it's you're leaving people with a feeling. Like, how do you want to make someone feel when they are listening and after they listen?
Mm-hmm. So,
like, To Live or Die in LA is an escape from me. Like, I feel like in their world. Like, I'm not here. I'm escaping to this other world, you know?
I was trying to look for a tweet you tweeted, but I couldn't find it. But you quoted, it was something like relevant to what you just said. You quoted the lovely Kate Ward behind the scenes of Yes Theory. It was like, burnout happens when you have no clear goal or something like that.
Yeah, I remember.
So,
I don't remember what date I posted that.
So
but I remember.
What is your goal with what you're doing right now? Because we've been on this grind, like constantly for the past 4 months, and people are burning out. What's your goal?
With your podcast?
No. I'm not burning out. People in Creator Now are burning out.
Oh, are they? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Because I mean,
wait, tell me.
What do you mean? Tell you what?
Like, what are some of the stories about burning out? Because like, I have been so like disconnected from this season. I've been so busy. I would love to hear more about the burnout perspective.
Like, people just have so much going on. Like, one of my friends, I don't know if he wants me to be named, but
no, don't name him. Don't name him. Yeah.
But he has work, and now he's doing all like the team lead stuff. And he has just so much going on, and he doesn't know what he wants to do, and he just feels like burnt out from everything.
Do you think, though, that has something to do with what I was mentioning before, that he doesn't really know what success is for him or her? Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Because I think that's the thing. Like when we, and maybe it alludes to what Kate's quote was, when we don't understand what success is for our own independent journey, everything gets confusing. You don't know what meetings to take, what meetings not to take, where to place your actions. Like, the reason why I'm doing my YouTube channel right now is, one, I just want to be consistent. I actually happen to enjoy it. I think it would be cool to have passive inflow later on, and passive money, and I'm helping people anyway. So it's kind of fun to just like randomly help you. I find it enjoyable. Like, if I hated it, like I got contracted by TikTok at one point to produce a bunch of TikToks. Oh my God, I hated it. Like, I hated creating TikToks multiple times on a daily basis.
Was that when it first came out?
So, what was that?
Was that when it first came out?
No, this was like, I don't know, 8-9 months ago. So, and maybe I just didn't create the TikToks in a way that worked for me. Mm-hmm. But still, when we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, that's when things get frustrating or exhausting. Being really clear of what like success looks like. So I think true success for me at this stage is, am I feeling joy and inner ease inside my body? Am I enjoying my life? Because if I'm not, then what's the point of all of it?
Are you enjoying your life right now?
No.
Why not? Why don't you think so?
I mean, that's a big question, but I just have a lot. Like, I've been working really hard for so long, doing, a lot of the same things that I feel like I've done really well. I've helped a lot of people, and I've really taken myself out of the equation through most of my career. Like, it's all been in service to others. And I kind of want to be like, okay, now I want to serve me too. What does that look like? And I'm having a really hard time with that question.
Mm-hmm. So what do you seem to work hard like so much. Do you do anything on you live in LA, right? Do you like go to the beach, or do you like surf, or what do you like to do?
You'd think, right? No, I mean, I go to the beach sometimes, but no, most of my life revolves around, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but it does. It revolves around working, and then, I mean, not to totally like lose all points possible, but like at night to relax, like I'm like, Love Island, let me know what's going on. You know what I mean? So Island. I like zone out to the reality TV or whatever.
Yeah. All right.
So throughout your like creator process, and you've been doing this for so many years, I know you mentioned you started one of your podcasts way back in 2013. Have there ever been any moments where you've been burnt out or just thought about saying, let me drop this and try something different?
I mean, so many times. I think that's part of the creator journey, burnout, right? Like, I remember when I was building my sports company, I was like freaking out, crying on my office floor, like not knowing how I was going to hold it all together. Like, burnout happens a lot, but that's why I think it's really important for people who are naturally driven to like prioritize self-care, because it's not as intuitive as just being driven and getting things done. So if we prioritize self-care, I feel like it works everything out. Like, even before this, like I'm a little sick right now. And so before this, in order to have energy for this, like I took a walk outside because I thought that was really important. I made some tea, like did some things so that I could have more energy for right now. So I think burnout is something that we all have to be wary of as ambitious people, and it's going to happen, but just making sure that you prioritize, like, that's not a way to live. Let me like readjust and take care of myself is an important part of the process.
So you're on different apps. You're on Twitter, Apple Podcasts, YouTube.
My friend says
Instagram.
I do YOLO tweets.
So you're on plenty of apps, but it happens that you are literally the face of an app called Clubhouse.
Yeah, that's weird,
So
right?
Clubhouse is how do you say how do you explain Clubhouse? Is it a talking app? Like
It's
live?
an audio social network.
Yeah. Do you guys know Clubhouse?
No, I don't.
Yeah, it was like this big app that everyone got into, and then it was like invite only for the longest time. Now it's finally open. I think
Yeah.
you were the icon like on people's phones.
Yeah, it's wild.
How did you find yourself like there?
Yo, serendipity, like that was just random and crazy. Like I got into Clubhouse. Clubhouse is like zillions and millions of people now, but I got into Clubhouse when it was under 10,000 people. And I think just my activity in the community, they're like her. And yeah, it was such a trip. It's really weird. I don't really look. So one of my mentors has a saying called private victories. I don't really I don't really look at like public accolades as like forms of success. I understand that they're publicly perceived as successful and I'm extremely grateful for them. But like true success, I believe that we don't really see. Like for example, um let's take like some top celebrity in the world. So everybody thinks they're amazing. They're super rich, maybe in all the movies or whatever, right? And so you're like, that person's successful. But what if behind closed doors they're miserable, right? So are they actually successful? So I think that, like, or what if behind closed doors, like, there's so many people I've heard about where publicly they look like they're nice and caring, and then behind closed doors they're like tyrants, you know? So if you're not a person who privately feels joy inside your body and you're serving others and you're being kind to those around you just privately behind all the closed doors, then are you really successful? And so I think it's like it was a really cool opportunity and something that I noticed people bring up, like, yo, she was like one of the faces of Clubhouse. I think there's been like 7. So that is insane, especially now with millions of people that I don't know if 7's an accurate number, by the way, but it's something small like that, right? Like, that is wild. At the same time, like, I don't think that makes me successful. I think, and
Yeah,
I
feel
don't
you.
think I've succeeded yet. I think people think that I've succeeded, but I don't feel like I've succeeded yet.
Yeah. Have you? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, talking about success, I guess I was going to ask this question, and that was like a perfect little segue into it. What would you say have been some of the more like defining moments of your life and career? I guess both, publicly and personally. Personally,
Yeah.
obviously, is more important. I would say now that I heard you say that, but
Yeah. Well, so with the pandemic, I'm sure we all have taken a moment to reevaluate how we've been living our life. And the most successful thing, I don't know if that's the right word, but like the thing that I'm like, oh, thank goodness I did that, was my traveling. Not because of the podcast, but because like I've really lived. And so I can't, like, I've spent so much time behind a computer in my life. That does not come up for me when I'm like, yeah, I lived my life well, I think my traveling has just been, I feel so like lucky. The other thing has been, I've lived a really purposeful life where I've given like a lot. I've helped a lot of people. So I feel really good about that. But there's really like private things, like when my mom recently, and she's okay now, but had to go to the hospital for some things. And I was a really good daughter. Like I made sure to make it a point to like take her to the hospital, be there, clear my schedule to make sure I was an attentive daughter. I think moments like that make me successful, Um, and it's especially hard when, as an ambitious person, to clear my schedule to drive my mom everywhere,
right.
But like, I was like, I am so lucky. Like, I remember one time my mom and I were walking into the hospital and she's like, I'm so sorry that, you have to drive me around. And I was like, have to. I was like, I get to. I get to have a mom that's here, and it's a privilege to be able to be a supportive daughter, And I think that that's like an important and conscious shift because I think it's really easy to get lost in like, oh my God, I have a million meetings and I got to do this and I got to do that and blah, blah, blah. But it's important to prioritize those who matter to you.
No, definitely.
Yeah. That's a really interesting way of redefining success and just like taking a step back from typical like ways that people would define success. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So before we like finish off, we've been doing this thing.
No!
I know, but before we finish off, we've been doing this thing where it's a time capsule. So if Espree, if you're watching this back, if you happen to be watching this back, skip over this part.
In 5 years.
In 5 years, I want you to talk to yourself in 5 years. Like right now, go like, talk to yourself in 5 years, and maybe you'll end up seeing this in 5 years or later.
Man,
like, what would you say to yourself?
Okay, so here's the thing. I used to think, I'll answer the question, but this is important. I used to think 5 years out or whatever the future casting was. And what I discovered is I want to do a check-in that I'm fine in the right now. And I constantly want to double check this exact moment, the right now, you know? So I kind of like as a day-to-day is like, where do you want your company to be in 5 years? It's like, who cares? Like, I just want to be okay right now, you know? So that's one note. But like a message to myself looking back is I hope that.
Or maybe it doesn't have to be too, like, now that you say that, maybe you can just tell your future self, like, how you are today, if that's better.
No, it's fine. I was going to say that I hope that looking back, that I found my way to release any angst or darkness. Like, you know how we all go through life obstacles. So anything that's like, I hold on to that I'm allowing to weigh me down. I hope I find my way to release to understand that it doesn't serve me to hold on to those things, and to operate from an abundant place where I don't make decisions based on scarcity, and to value my self-worth.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. We appreciate you coming on. Where can we find you?
I appreciate you.
Where can we
Dude,
find
what
you?
you're doing, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on your podcast, but what you're doing in Creator Now is awesome. Like,
Thank
it's
you.
like the Instagram posts and like really talented, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, you're always showing me love in the comments section. I appreciate you.
I know, because I want you tagged there. I'm like, what? This is not fair.
I know. Yeah, I got lucky in that position that I found myself there.
No, that's the thing, though, is that like they're lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, mutually lucky. Mutually lucky. Fine. Mutually lucky is nicer, but truly, like I feel like the consistency and action that you just and energy that you just continue to invest into your craft, like that's what I'm talking about. That it's undeniable that you will succeed, not because you're going to have this overnight success, but because you're doing it on a daily basis in all different ways and making sure that you're continually evolving.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Dude, all the guests are just gassing me up. I know, right? My ego. I appreciate that, Espree. That means a lot.
Yeah, you got
all
it.
right. So where can we find you? Where can we find like your socials? What are your socials?
Yeah. So at Espree Devora on Instagram, on Twitter, ESPREEDEVORA. My podcast, womenintech.fm, wearelatech.fm. Or you could email me, espree@hey.com, HEY.com. Yeah, I'm happy to be supportive of what you have going on. And I always tell everybody, just remember your intuition is your oracle in this world that is like so loud and full of so many opinions and so many people trying to get at you and tell you the right path to live. There's like a zillion right pathways, and you just need to like tap into your intuition to decide which is the path that's right for you. It's the biggest thing that I didn't understand when I was starting my company is that I was a lot smarter and capable than I ever knew. And I always thought that someone outside of me had all the answers. But truly, like, no one actually has the answers. We're all just doing the best that we can, no matter what our status is in life.
Awesome. All right. That's been another episode of Nothing Outside. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
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 Bye.